help me get out of here, because I gotta tell you, this death thing.
The striped suit, the rotten grin, that gravel-soaked voice that cut through dark theaters back when projectors rattled. Aisles smelled like warm butter, and the cardboard VHS standees in video stores practically shouted at you. Beetlejuice didn't just premiere in 1988, it barged into living rooms and rewired imaginations during a time when movies weren't disposable background noise, but full evening events. Before streaming chipped culture into fragments, before clean digital effects smoothed every edge, films like this were messy, handmade beasts. Behind the jokes and neon chaos hid danger, sweat, jealousy, bruised egos, collapsing marriages, suffocating prosthetics, and choices strange enough to feel supernatural. These are 20 facts about Beetlejuice, 1988, that reveal what really happened. Fact number 1, Michael Keaton invented Beetlejuice's entire look in the makeup chair in under an hour. Keaton arrived on set with barely any script direction and a handful of loose ideas for the character he called Beetlejuice. This was back when filmmaking rhythm was fast, frantic, and unpredictable, before endless design committees vetted every costume decision. Keaton grabbed wigs, tossed them aside, pointed at slime-colored powders, and demanded more grime, more moss, more filth. Back when makeup meant spirit gum, crushed foam, and chemical smells that clung to the air, he told the artists, "Make me look like I've been dead for centuries." The character hit him like electricity. What audiences saw on screen was the result of a white-hot spark of creation that burned through the chair in a single, chaotic hour. Fact number 2, the original script was shockingly dark and bordered on straight horror. The film you remember, The Twisted Carnival of the Afterlife, was actually a major rewrite. The initial screenplay was brutal. Beetlejuice was a murderous reptilian creature obsessed with violently harming the living. Lydia nearly died, and the Maitlands' own deaths were written as gruesome and horrifying. Director Tim Burton pushed back hard, reshaping the terror into a dark comedy and a fever dream of bureaucracy. What survived was the strangeness, but for a terrifying few weeks in development, the movie was poised to be an outright nightmare. Fact number 3, Michael Keaton filmed all his scenes in just 2 weeks due to his schedule. This insane sprint captured a kinetic, explosive energy that defines the character. Keaton later said that every scene became a sprint, not a marathon. That gut punch delivery, the twisted smiles, and the sudden jumps, all of it came from a performance that burned hot and fast, like someone trying to outrun their own shadow. Keaton arrived with barely any script direction, just a wild concept, and that compressed schedule forced a chaotic unpredictability that became the hallmark of the role. This was the late 80s rhythm, and it was that very lack of polish that made the character unforgettable. Fact number 4, director Tim Burton originally wanted Sammy Davis Jr. for the role of Beetlejuice. The idea was a swinging lounge ghost with a smooth voice and Vegas swagger. Producers panicked, believing the idea was too old school and too strange for the time, but that near casting left a strange fingerprint on the final character. Beneath Keaton's manic, deranged antics, there is still a quiet whisper of a half-remembered showman from a vanished era, like a cocktail lounge demon wearing someone else's skin. The Vegas energy they shot down had already found its way into the DNA of the film. Fact number 5, Winona Ryder was terrified when she first read the script, believing the pages were a prank. She simply didn't understand the tone. Dead parents, ghost comedy, stop-motion worms. This was before Hollywood had fully processed the kind of strange gothic vision Burton was preparing. But once she met the director and saw his charcoal sketches, elongated limbs, shadows that looked alive, something clicked. Lydia wasn't a stereotype. She was a kid lost between worlds, a feeling instantly recognized by audiences who felt that same haunting disconnect. It took a shared artistic vision to convince her to step into the role that would define her career. Fact number 6, the iconic Deo possession scene nearly got scrapped because studio executives didn't understand it. They couldn't grasp why a mundane dinner party should suddenly turn into a possessed calypso conga line. It was actress Catherine O'Hara who pushed hard to keep the moment, convinced that its sheer absurdity would become unforgettable. Under hot lights, with prosthetic shrimp hands lunging at faces, the cast threw themselves into the chaos. The result became one of the most replayed VHS moments of the decade. Back when film studios had less control over a director's strange vision, sometimes a single actor's conviction could save a cultural moment. Fact number 7, the famous Afterlife waiting room was built inside a tiny, stifling studio corner. This claustrophobic setup added visceral reality to the set. Actors sat for hours in thick prosthetics that burned, itched, and glued their skin tight. This was before productions had strict ergonomic or comfort requirements for prosthetics, before modern ventilation systems made long hours bearable. One performer in the room couldn't drink without using a straw threaded through a hole in their fake throat, yet nobody complained. The intense discomfort made the scene feel real, like purgatory disguised as a DMV. What audiences saw as a funny, surreal space was in reality a sweatbox of human suffering. Fact number 8, a Gina Davis stretch face take ended with her nearly fainting under the heat and prosthetics. The fake skin clamped against her nasal passages, cutting her airflow. She was pushing through the scene under massive halogen lights, the kind that cooked the sets to dessert temperatures. She was sweating so heavily that crew members had to wipe the floor afterward. Today, a digital artist would just stretch her face in post-production, making the scene safe and simple. But back then, actors suffered for every single frame of the handmade magic that defined the era. Fact number 9, Alec Baldwin hated his performance during filming, feeling the tone was unstable and scenes felt improvised. He couldn't understand how the ghost world rules fit together. This confusion became the core of the Maitland's characters, two gentle, methodical souls lost in an afterlife that didn't behave by any rules they recognized. Baldwin was structured and methodical in his approach, while Michael Keaton was the pure definition of chaos. That profound confusion and tension from the actors became the perfect on-screen friction, transforming Baldwin's on-set frustration into the Maitland's confused innocence that audiences connected with. Fact number 10. The miniature model town wasn't just a prop, it was practically its own film set. This detail showcases the era of practical effects before CGI took over. Craftsmen painted tiny shingles with toothpicks, aged brick textures with brushes the thickness of a hair, and wired street lamps one by one with incredible precision. When Beetlejuice stomps through that world, the shots are layered with the fingerprints from hundreds of hours of human touch. This level of obsessive, hands-on detail created the tangible, tactile quality of the film that cemented its dominance as a cultural touchstone when films were still built by hand. Fact number 11. The terrifying sandworms were stop-motion nightmares that took animators days to complete for only a few seconds of footage. Animators hunched over miniature deserts, adjusting positions millimeter by agonizing millimeter. They worked under magnifying glasses for so long that their eyes needed hours to readjust to normal scale afterward. That signature jerky movement wasn't a technical flaw, but simply the immense cost of handmade magic. This level of physical sacrifice and precision, done in the dark, painstaking corners of a soundstage, is why those creatures still hold a primal, unsettling power that modern digital effects can rarely match. Fact number 12. A smoke machine malfunction almost caused a fire during the afterlife waiting room scenes. Thick synthetic fog, mixed with overheated machinery, produced a small burst of flame that scorched a piece of scenery. A quick-thinking grip smothered the small fire with his denim jacket. There were no alarms, no shutdown, just a small singe in a world built entirely on risk. This danger, common on sets before modern fire safety protocols became the standard, was simply treated as another day's hazard, the human cost of achieving a surreal cinematic vision. Fact number 13. The staircase snake scene originally terrified children during test screenings, forcing producers to consider cutting it. The monster morphing into a giant snake, lunging up the Dietz's main staircase, created genuine shock. Producers, worried about scaring off a wider audience, nearly eliminated the moment, but Burton fought to keep the shock factor, insisting that the afterlife needed teeth. They compromised by trimming a few frames, but the visceral, unsettling energy stayed. It remains one of the film's most disturbing images, a reminder that back then, directors had the freedom to terrify audiences without sanitizing every moment for the mass market. Fact number 14. The cast who played the dead football team suffered immensely under their costumes. Those 1980s football pads weren't just props, they were dense, unventilated slabs of polyester and foam. Under the blistering studio lights, actors sweated so heavily that their socks had to be wrung out between takes. The unceasing heat exposure led to one performer nearly collapsing from heat exhaustion. This was before safety regulations mandated cooling vests or regulated costume temperature. Actors had to endure the suffering for the sake of the gag. Their comedic discomfort was paid for with real physical endurance. Fact number 15. Jeffrey Jones and Catherine O'Hara engaged in a gentle feud during parts of the shoot. Their characters' marriage was meant to be brittle, full of petty annoyance and clashing sensibilities. Some of that irritation bled off screen as they debated line deliveries and acting styles. Baldwin was methodical, Keaton was chaotic, and these two performers, O'Hara and Jones, had their own clashing styles, like two artists painting from opposite ends of the canvas. That natural, human friction between the actors created the brittle, perfectly annoying chemistry that made the Dietz family the perfect foil to the Maitlands' lost innocence. Fact number 16. Winona Ryder's red wedding dress scene pushed her to a physical breaking point. The beautiful, dramatic wedding dress was an instrument of torture on the set. The thick fabric trapped heat like insulation, and the stiff corset cut into her ribs, making every breath feel like dragging air through cloth. Her trembling hands in that scene, as she stood opposite Keaton, were not acting. They were her body, begging for relief from the suffocating costume. Audiences seeing it in the theater in 1988 saw the drama, but only the crew knew the physical cost of that single iconic moment. Fact number 17. A deleted scene involving live fire nearly shut down the entire production. This was a sequence involving a ritual, and sparks shot out during the take, igniting a prop curtain. Fire safety quickly halted the day, a serious incident that could have been catastrophic. The scene was immediately scrapped, leaving behind only charred fabric and a few shaken crew members. This constant brush with danger underscores how much was left to chance back then, before safety became the paramount concern on film sets, and how much risk was taken to create this seemingly lighthearted afterlife. Fact number 18. Tim Burton secretly slipped his then-girlfriend into the afterlife corridor as a cameo ghost. The shot is a blink-and-miss moment, translucent fabric, a drifting walk through the DMV of the dead. This was 1987, before social media made every on-set affair and intimate detail public knowledge, when a director could hide his own failing relationship in the very fabric of his film. Their relationship was quietly unraveling during the intense production, and by the time the movie wrapped, they had drifted apart for good. Her tiny cameo became a miniature emotional fossil trapped inside the film, a private, painful memory only the director would ever truly understand. Fact number 19. The Dietz house transformation mirrored a real cultural shift of the late 1980s. The arrival of the Dietz family and their grotesque renovation was more than a funny set change. It reflected the tension many households felt then. The sleek black sculptures, neon edges, and clashing tones represented the push and pull between old warmth and new shock value design. This subtle cultural commentary is why the film resonated so deeply, validating the feelings of audiences who saw their own traditional world being invaded by modern art intrusion. The house became a tribal marker for the era. Fact number 20. The emotional center of Beetlejuice wasn't the jokes. It was the strange, clumsy warmth between the living and the dead. All the chaos, the danger, the suffering of the prosthetics, and the improvisational energy. All the risk taken on a low-budget set. It all ultimately served one purpose: creating a house full of mismatched souls, finding a way to coexist. That blend of absurdity and sincerity created a bond strong enough to survive decades. It came from an era when films were made by hand, with rough edges and beating hearts, and that's why Beetlejuice still lingers like a stubborn spirit. Half prankster, half memory, impossible to shake. Beetlejuice exploded on VHS rental shelves. Those tall, glossy boxes lived at eye level in video stores where Friday nights smelled like plastic tape and sugary snacks. Families rented it again and again, wearing down the tape until static rolled across the bottom of the picture like ghosts trapped inside the machine. Television networks turned it into a seasonal ritual. Every October, it aired alongside other spookiness, becoming a kind of cultural glue. Entire living rooms formed their own traditions around it, long before algorithms dictated what people watched. It was a film built by human hands, through physical suffering, creative chaos, and quiet on-set heartbreak. For those who remember seeing it back when films were communal events and every discovery was shared, that handmade magic and strange, clumsy warmth will always feel like home.